Today is day 2 of the ornament project. Your stations should be set up like this. You have your 3 ornaments from yesterday. These are the 2 that you put face down with Mod Podge. This is the ornament that you painted, and you should have an extra image that you haven't done anything with. You'll also need a sponge paintbrush today. If you want to decorate your ornaments, you might need a smaller brush. You also need 2 very small pieces of cloth. They may be dry, they may be wet at your station. As long as you have those, you're good. The first step is let's clear these off the cardboard. Make sure you have newspaper underneath because it's going to get wet today. We want to be able to throw that out. I'll put this to the side, move my cardboard over. All right, let's start with our 2 face down images. At your table should be 1 container of water. Make sure you do not put any paintbrushes in this water today. It can't have Mod Podge or paint in it, only have water. Take your 2 pieces of cloth and put them in the water. And we don't want them to be dripping too much, but we do want them to be really, really soaked with water. We're going to put these on top of your image, and we're going to squish it down. A little bit of the water is going to come out. We're going to do that to both of the ornaments. Remember, wet as possible without being too drippy. There we go. Put that on top of it and squish it down. In fact, every few minutes, what I want you to do is just take your hand and squish that down. Put those to the side for just a minute. Dry off your hands. There should be some paper towels there at your station. Next, let's work with the one that you painted yesterday. For this one, you need the sponge paintbrush, and I want you to get just a tiny bit of Mod Podge. Do not stick the entire brush in there. Look how little I have on my paintbrush. First, on the back side of your image, oh, by the way, you can keep it cut out as a rectangle or square, or you can actually spend some time and cut out the person or the thing, the image. I would probably even spend a little bit more time cutting this one out if I wanted to. So it can be like, 3-dimensionally cut out, or it can be square. But I'm going to work with this one. I'm going to put Mod Podge on the back side, just a very, very thin layer. In fact, I want to wipe a lot of it off, super thin, barely see it. Put that on your ornament, smooth it out with my hand. You can use a card if you want to. And then, again, tiny bit, does not take much, do not submerge it. Put a coat on the top of it. Now, it looks like a thin layer of glue. In fact, that's what it is. It's going to seal our ornament. It's going to make the image lay flat. So make sure you get around the corners of your image really good. Push that down. But look how thin this layer is. You could barely see it. Remember, it is going to dry clear. I'm going to hold it in my hand so I don't get any fingerprints on it. I'm going to try my best to wipe as much off of it as possible. Keep that layer very, very thin. All right, so now we have the ornament that was painted with the image on top of it. There's Mod Podge underneath it, Mod Podge on the top. Again, every now and then go over and squish these down. We're trying to soak the back side of that image. All right, again, do not put this in here. Go up to the podium, put your brush in the bucket up there, and then I want you to set a 15-minute timer now. I want you to pause the video, set a 15-minute timer. If you're in my Commercial Photography 1 class, you need to be working on your exam study guide because you can use this paper while you're taking the exam. So pause for 15 minutes and then come back. Okay, so after 15 minutes, your image should be soaked enough, and this one should be dry enough that you can touch it. It might be a little tacky. I'm going to switch these out for one that I had sitting around for 15 minutes. It is completely dry now. This one has completely soaked the piece of paper. Now, here's the hard part, and this is not ever going to be perfect. You're going to start either taking your finger and rolling this paper off, and when you do that, do your very best to not take any of the image off. We just want to get the white paper backing off. Now, you can use your hand or you can re-wet it very, very gently with the towel. And what's happening is the white paper's coming off and just the ink from the image is going to stay. Repeat this process until most of the paper's gone. Now look at this mess I'm making. I'm gonna leave this on my newspaper. I'm not gonna put it on the floor. So I can just throw everything out in the end. Look on the ground, make sure you haven't dropped anything on the ground. I keep rubbing that very, very softly with the rag or my hand until as much of the image, the white paper is gone, and this image is now permanently on the wood. Okay. I'm gonna let this dry for about 5 minutes, and while I'm letting that dry, I'm going to work with the picture that I have just simply glued on the painted ornament. From here, you can leave it alone. It's perfectly fine as is. It's your ornament, and you can do what you want to with it. But you can have a little fun. You have some small paint brushes at your table. You have plenty of colors of paint all around the room. I also have some bottles of whiteout, and for this one, I just painted it blue, and I put little white dots to represent snow on there. You can leave your image plain if you want to, but if you have the time, you might as well make it a little bit more fun. You can either gently put your paintbrush inside of these containers, or there's some cups around the classroom. You do not need to fill this cup up. I threw out like 4 full cups of paint yesterday. It was unnecessary. Look how little I've put in there. It's just a tiny drop, and I can use this to decorate up my ornament however I want to. Again, this is an optional step. You do not have to add more decorations to your ornament if you don't want to. So spend a little time playing around, and when you're finished, it should be about 5 minutes or so to give those other two a little bit of time to dry. I'm gonna get all my paint out of the way. Again, paint brushes do not go in here. Put this to the side or put that on the podium. This has been given a little bit of time to dry now. You can leave it plain, natural wood, and let it dry like this overnight, or you can add some paint to it. But first, what I want you to do is, no matter how much you end up decorating it, go ahead and get another dip of Mod Podge. Make sure all the white paper is rolled off of there and onto your newspaper. Okay, and we're going to give this one final coating of Mod Podge that, again, dries clear, thin as possible, just like we did on the painted ornament. This is going to seal it and make sure it stays on there forever. Thin, thin, thin layer. Very, very thin. Look how much of it I'm wiping off. That's why we don't want to soak this brush. We just want to put a tiny bit on there. Smooth it out. Make sure we get all around the edges of the image. Nice and flat. And after about another 5 minutes or so, it's going to be dry enough that if you would like to take some paintbrushes or whiteout or some other things and decorate this up, you can. You can also take this home and put glitter on it or sparklies or whatever you'd like to. In the end, you should have 2 wooden ornaments with the image that was face down that now the white paper has come off of, and you should have your one completely painted one first with a new image on top of it. That is 2 different techniques for wood transfer. This one is just the method where we put it face down and we end up wiping off everything but the ink. This one is just a simple collage method where you put the Mod Podge underneath and on top. In fact, we're going to put Mod Podge on top of all of these one last time before we leave the classroom today to make sure they're nice and sealed. And you are done with the ornament project. Finally, you need to put these back on the cardboard. Make sure your name, again, is on the back of them. You should have done that yesterday. And I would also maybe add 2021 on there. I really hope that you guys put some of these on your trees or decorations at home, and you remember that this was the year that you made these ornaments. But once those 3 are done, you're going to let them dry overnight and get them when you take your final exam.